This is The Bottom Line, a show designed to help Australian businesses succeed. On the show, you'll hear from leading Australian business owners as they share the lessons they've learned building their companies. You'll learn from their successes as well as some of the challenges they faced along the way. We also talk to experts from a range of fields who share specialised techniques you can use to improve your business. I'm your host, Savan Tuna, and I'm a director at Alexander Spencer, and I'm really passionate about helping Australian businesses succeed. Artificial intelligence swept the world 18 months ago with ChatGPT. We all got to play with it and have some fun, but how can we implement this in our business? Today we get to find out. We're joined by Inbal Rodnay, the expert in artificial intelligence. She's going to break down for us how business owners can implement AI to make our lives easier. Let's dive in. Inbal, thank you so much for joining me on The Bottom Line today.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here.
So we got you on The Bottom Line today, mainly because of the talk I heard you say at a conference I was at. You talked about technology, artificial intelligence. It's an area that I love. I've sort of started to dabble in that space a little bit.
It's a lot of fun.
And it's actually a lot of fun, I have to say, when you introduce it to someone that hasn't played around with it and their eyes, they get really excited. So
it looks like magic, doesn't it?
It is like magic. But before we get into that world, for those people that don't know your professional background, who you are, I want to get to know you a little bit more. And if you can take us through that journey of Inbal and where you are today, that would be awesome.
I'm Inbal, and I work a lot with accountants, bookkeepers, people in the financial industry. I am not an accountant. I will sometimes say we. Today, when I want to talk about the profession, I really trained as a software developer, writing code. But I very quickly discovered that I get very excited and very happy when I sit at the user side of the table. So I have a very good foundation in technology, and I understand how software is built, structured, and works. But I'm very happy on the client side, on the user side, looking at how do we bring that in and how do we make that work for us and how do we demystify all the magic, because often it looks like magic, and understand how it really works and what it can do for us. Professionally, I've recently been head of technology and innovation at Blue Rock, a Melbourne accounting firm that's very funky and very entrepreneurial. And it's a great place to lead technology and innovation because it's a bunch of people who are just excited about innovation, and they love change, and they love new, and they love doing things in a better way. So there's nowhere better than there to make great things happen. We did a lot of fantastic, beautiful projects. And now, since I've left there, I work with different accounting firms trying to bring the same thing in, help them adopt the latest and greatest technology, help them streamline their processes, help them get the comfort and the confidence that they know what's going on with technology, and create that buzz of technology in the firm where everyone's excited about it.
I love that. I love the energy. You bring so much energy in the room. It's something that I really love because that's one of my little strengths in the organization. Energy is important. And obviously you, software developer, when you think of that, you think of, maybe the little nerd that's punching away at the keyboard, writing code. You don't look like the software developer type, if that makes sense. And you don't look like the type to be working in the accounting industry either. So we are very fortunate. Obviously, The Bottom Line is hosted and produced by Alexander Spencer. And you are in an accountancy firm, so it's always nice to have someone that helps our industry in the room. But talk about Theory in Motion. That's your company. So let's talk more about what you do and how you do it. You've moved on from Blue Rock and you're now helping other accounting firms. Talk about the services you provide and maybe get deep into an understanding of sort of when you do come into an organization, take us through a little bit of a journey of some of the projects you've worked on and some successes you've had.
I do a lot of different things, and that's the kind of person that I am. I enjoy being involved in a lot of different things. I do a lot of public speaking, and that's where you and I met. I speak for organizations like associations and also software vendors, and sometimes for the firms themselves, accounting firms that have their internal strategy days, or want internal executive briefings for their leaders to be across what's going on in AI and technology, automation, etc. So that's sort of one aspect of it. I advise a bit into software vendors, which is very interesting in how I know what's going on and where things are going, and also into the associations around how do we teach our members about AI and automation and what's the competency, what does it look like? How do we give certifications in that? So that's a really interesting space that I've just started getting into and I am very excited about. But for my day job, I go into accounting firms and really try to create that culture of innovation and being a tech-savvy firm. So what I'm not, and what people often expect me to be, is I'm not the consultant that will come in, look at your app stack, diagram your processes, and tell you what software you need to put where to fix that. That is not me. What I will do is I'll come in and look at your people and look at how you work and identify within your firm who are the people that can be your technology leaders. Who are the people that really have it? And I'll tell you, you have them already. I always tell people that you probably have, before looking at your firm, I can tell you that you probably have pretty much all the technology and the people, the talent that you need to be a tech-savvy firm. It's just about reorganizing it a bit. So I would look at who are the people who can be your technology leaders, who like being on top of the latest and greatest, who like trying different things and going, can I make more of this software? Why aren't we using this feature, that feature? Why aren't we doing it that way? Let's try. And once we give these people permission, amazing things happen. Beautiful things happen. We also need to look at your app stack and go, are you making the most of the technology you already have? And I haven't looked at your firms then, but I'll tell you, often the answer is not. People don't make the most of the technology they have. Even the Microsoft platform that everyone's paying a license for is very, very underutilized. So what I like doing is coming in, opening the door of the back room with all the software in it, I imagine that metaphorically, and just dusting it off and going, hey, look at all the wonderful stuff you've got here. Let's start using it. Let me show you how it works, and we'll find things that it can do for us.
I'm very inspired. Straight after this podcast recording, we're going to go into a little bit of a walkthrough and then go into a room. We're going to chat about how you can help us because it wasn't a pitch, but I'm very excited. But let's dive into it. So I think everyone knows what AI is, artificial intelligence, automation. So we don't want to go too deep into that, but just very quickly, let's talk about how it kind of got here. Because the thing that I don't understand is when we talk about AI, we always talk about, well, not always talk about, but we think of ChatGPT. And that's sort of the thing that came out about 18 months ago as a thing that everyone's like, whoa, look at this thing, what it can do. But then I see how other software providers have built AI into software. So I see on social media, you can do a prompt and all of a sudden AI draws this picture for you, or you can say a speech in English and then there's software that then prints that out to you in 5 different languages. And then there's
during, live, not after. That's amazing.
It's amazing. So can you, from a software developer, just talk to us about this journey and then what the software companies have done to introduce AI into their software. So talk about this journey of AI so our listeners can get a bit of an understanding of what it really is.
I want you to understand, as an accounting firm, the tools available to you. So we all know, and everybody is telling us that AI has been around for ages, but we didn't see it, did we?
No.
But we did. So for example, we all know that credit card companies and banks use AI to detect fraud. We know that. It's not the same. It's not generative AI, what we're seeing in ChatGPT. It's other algorithms that can detect trends and can categorize things very well and identify patterns very well, and all the machine learning that we've been hearing about for ages, all of those things. I find them, they're amazing. I find them less interesting for us. Why? Because they're under the hood. So you don't need to know how to use fraud detection and how it works for your bank to use it, right? You just use your card. And when you get a message that says, hey, we think you have fraud, you deal with it. They use AI. Amazing, very exciting. But you don't see it, you don't interact with it. I find it less interesting for our purpose. I want us to look at the things that we can engage with. And that's what exploded maybe 18 months ago, whenever that was. Because suddenly there was a user interface, ChatGPT, that any person, you and I, could interact with without any training, without being a software developer, without anyone wrapping it up in a package for us that we can use. And we can engage with this directly. And that's why it exploded so beautifully. And now we can interact with it in different ways. And I want to put on the table a few categories that we can look at. One, yes, we all know about ChatGPT, and there are others. There's Claude, that's becoming very, very popular, writes beautifully, has some wonderful features that ChatGPT doesn't have, but by the time we launch this episode, it will change again. So I'm afraid to touch anything specific, but there's something about the user interface there that makes it easier to use for writing because it works with artifacts on the side, so it doesn't become this long chat with a lot of words. It becomes, let's work on this document, and the document is on the side. And let's make another version of it, and then it shows on this. So it's easier to work with, and it has a different writing style. So some people will prefer this, some people will prefer that. But this is a general purpose generative AI tool. And we say AI, we mean generative AI, let's just say AI. So this is a general purpose AI tool. I can do anything with it. I can ask it work things, personal things. I can ask it to help me on the way here. The person who brought me into the office told me how they use AI to plan their trip to Italy. Amazing. And you can use it to plan meals, but you can also use it for professional things. And you know what I did on the way here when I was driving to meet you? I used my ChatGPT that has a voice option, so I can speak with it on my phone. Before I left my home, I uploaded the transcript of our call that we had, what was it, a month or two ago, and my notes from our conversation. So it had that. And on the way, I said, hey, that's a podcast I'm going to be on. Help me prepare. And I actually said, how can you best help me prepare? And we had a whole conversation on the way, helping me prepare for this session. So I hope we did good, right?
That is why you are just hitting the mark. This is so good.
So this is one category. One category is the general purpose tools. The other category where you and I will meet AI every day now is integrated AI, where AI comes into the tool that we're using every day anyway. And in the accounting world, tools like Aider, Etani, Expert, Carbon, there's others, they bring AI into the tool. What does that mean? So it's a tool that we've been using before. It's a practice management system or a financial reporting system or whatever it is. But suddenly, bam, there's this AI field there, and I can start asking questions. And usually it will be two types of questions that I can ask. I can ask questions about my data. So find the trend on whatever, what's the profit in this, what's impacting that, what's driving that. And I can ask often questions about the tool. So how do I create a graph that will show right? So that gives me two amazing superpowers. One, the first one, it interacts with the data with me securely. And so that means that I have an assistant now that can review it with me, like work with me on this data, help me prepare for the client meeting, or help me prepare the report, or help me identify some things. Or maybe I'm a bit of a junior person and it can help me with more senior analysis that I'm not familiar with. Or maybe this client is in an industry that I'm not very familiar with. So it can help me with some information on that industry or geographical region or whatever it is. That's one superpower I get. The other superpower is that it helps me get on top of tools that maybe in the past had a bit more of a learning curve. So we talked about the tools specifically in accounting, but it also comes into Microsoft Power BI as a co-pilot, or into Microsoft Excel. They're a bit young, these products, but they're getting better and better all the time. And then it can help me not only analyze the data, but help me build a formula that will do something, or understand the formula in the spreadsheet I received from Sven, and he's using these advanced formulas that I don't understand, right? So that's another superpower that it gives me. So it was a very long answer, but what we said here was that there are general purpose tools like ChatGPT and Claude that can chat with me on anything in the world. There's integrated AI that comes into the tools we're using every day anyway and brings all that smarts into those tools.
So business owners always are looking for an edge. Inflation's gone up, economy's not great. Sometimes we look for efficiencies, and automation, robotics, and AI gives us the ability to do that. What advice do you have for business owners, accounting firms, professional firms, or just general businesses to start to make the first step? What should they do where if they can't afford to get you into their business to do all the stuff that you talked about and what you do for firms, how should they take the first step in this world?
Okay, so you mentioned two things here. You mentioned AI and you mentioned automation. And they are very different in my mind. Yes, they can happen together. Sometimes I can use AI to automate, but there are so many non-AI tools that I can use for automation. And we've been doing automation before the last 18 months. There's a lot there, different ways. So let's start with AI. Let's imagine a bell curve, all right? And that's the bell curve of adoption, AI adoption. And there'll be those who are the very early adopters who do those amazing things. And there are firms like that. They hire software developers, they hire data scientists, they build their own AI tools, they build their own in-house instance of ChatGPT so they can have control and visibility of how their staff is. They're in the very, very right-hand side of that bell curve. It's beautiful that they exist. They're not the majority. And you don't need to worry about it. That's not where you need to be if you start thinking about that. So when you read all those things on LinkedIn of they implemented this and those implemented that, I can give actual examples here, but don't worry about it. Not a big deal. That is okay. Where the majority of people are, the 80%, right now, the strategy, I believe, is around upskilling. Because we all have a workforce that is not AI literate. And definitely 18 months ago, we all had a workforce that is not AI literate and doesn't know how to use these tools. And now some of us have a workforce that's already quite good at this, and some don't. This is where I believe the majority of firms should invest their energy or should have their strategy thinking about. If a staff member comes with a use case that says, oh, do you know what? I think I can use ChatGPT to do this, or I can use Microsoft Copilot to do that. I suggest not to come up with ways to measure how much it shortens the process and how much capacity it creates and how much. I suggest not to measure that, because the real value here is that we're going to start using these tools, and this person has just driven an opportunity to show all our staff that AI can be used in their processes every day to deliver their work, not just to plan trips to Italy and meal plans, right? To do their actual everyday work. So any use case like that, I say, yes, I don't care if it really creates capacity or not right now. Not today. We will worry about that in a year. Right now, it's about starting to use it. If you're a firm that has not got an AI policy in place, even a very simple half-page one, if you haven't given your staff permission to use AI, do you know what happens? They use it secretly.
I was going to say they don't use it.
That's what you think, because you're the owner, because you're the director or the partner. If you don't allow people to use the great technology that's out there, they use it secretly. Is that what we want? No, because that's not good. Because they feel like they're cheating and they feel like they're doing something not okay. And then it's not great for our culture. And that's not how we want our relationships at work to be. And the other, because we don't know what they're doing and if they're doing it safely. And we don't leverage what they're figuring out how to do better for everyone else in the firm. So not a great place to be. I think that the only answer today is, let's turn on the light, let's put it on the table, let's sit around the table and talk about how we're using this thing. I don't think that today there's the option of saying, yeah, we're not going to use it. It's just not going to happen. Let's go back to your question. So how do we get started? I think there's a few aspects to this. You want to recruit and engage all your staff to be part of this process of embracing AI. You want to talk to them about what tools are out there and what we're going to play with. You want to give every person who comes up with a great idea a stage to show it to all their peers and to let them use it too. You probably also want to spend a bit of money on getting them secure paid accounts on whatever tool it is that you choose to use. And if it's very hard for you to choose, start with ChatGPT, right? It's out there. Everyone's using it. We know it's good. Use a paid account. Toggle the right toggles to make sure your security is good. Review that and use that.
Thanks for listening to part 1 of this 2-part chat. Join us next episode for the conclusion of this conversation. This is The Bottom Line, a show designed to help Australian businesses succeed. This podcast was produced by accountancy firm Alexander Spencer. At Alexander Spencer, we've been helping business owners realize their goals since 1952, and we play a pivotal role in developing, implementing, and supervising the business goals and strategies of our clients. To find out how we can help your business succeed, head to our website, alexanderspencer.com.au. To make sure you don't miss an episode of The Bottom Line, be sure to subscribe to or follow the show in your podcast app. And while you're there, leave us a 5-star review. It really helps others find the show. I'm Savan Tuna, and we'll be back next episode with more tips to help you transform your business. And that's The Bottom Line.